Welcome back. House Speaker Mike Johnson announcing that the House will vote on 3 separate foreign aid bills this week. One for Israel, one for Ukraine, and one for Taiwan. The House is also considering a 4th bill, which focuses on other national security priorities, such as TikTok. However, the White House is being clear, saying yesterday President Biden will veto any standalone Israel aid bill, insisting that it must also include money to Ukraine and Taiwan. Joining me now is Texas Congressman Lance Gooden, a member of the House Judiciary and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, your reaction to the White House sticking to its guns, saying no aid standalone just to Israel?
Well, you know, the White House is saying this because so far it's worked for them when they make these statements. Bills tend to languish, but I don't believe they're serious this time. I have a hard time believing Joe Biden would really veto standalone aid to Israel, especially after what happened this past weekend and what could happen in the next few days. But we'll let him cross that bridge when we get there. In the meantime, the House is scheduled to release the text of this legislation. We've only talked about it since last night. We'll actually see the bills on paper today and see where we are later in the week.
Well, I mean, Congressman, many people are wondering why, in fact, you're talking about any money going anywhere, doing any more spending without having secured the border. I spoke with the Speaker of the House on Sunday about this very subject. Watch this. Mr. Speaker, why bring a bill to the floor to send money to Ukraine without having secured the border?
So, Maria, what Marjorie fails to notice is that we have been fighting on the border. We fight on it every day. We passed our comprehensive border security package, H.R. 2, at the very beginning of this Congress. It's been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk. We passed all the resolutions. We passed these acts out of the House, and they get stopped in the Senate. See, the open borders Democrats control the Senate and the White House, obviously. So we've not been able to have a lawmaking exercise to meet that critical objective. But we're fighting every day.
Your reaction, sir?
I agree with you. My constituents agree with you, which is why I won't be able to support Ukraine funding that does not also include border security. And I suspect that there will be problems later this week. And I can't imagine a scenario where Ukraine funding passes without the help of Democrat votes, if in fact it's a standalone bill. I do believe there's broad bipartisan support for Israel funding support later this week. But my constituents back home want the border secured. And there is talk about H.R. 2, as the Speaker said to you on Sunday. But the only talk I've heard so far is requiring the Senate to actually take a vote on it before we transmit whatever bills we pass over to the Senate. I think it's premature, but I do agree with you. How can we justify sending money to secure the border of Ukraine before we secure our own?
So how's this going to play out? You're not alone. You've got lots of colleagues saying the same thing. I can't do it. My principles won't allow me to agree to money to Ukraine when we haven't secured the border yet. Tell me how this plays out later on in the week then.
I think later on in the week, you're going to see Democrats help pass this rules package, which allows the bills to be teed up, I think, probably by Friday, 72 hours after the text is released today, which is Friday evening. You'll see votes on all of these. I suspect the Israel aid package will pass with Republican votes, including my own. Same for Taiwan. When it comes to Ukraine, I can't imagine a scenario where that bill passes without quite a few Democrats. And then I think you might see some political ramifications after that. I don't know. I can't predict the future after that. But I suspect that Democrats will get Ukraine funding across the finish line. And if the Speaker allows that to happen, there'll be other problems to deal with.
Are you expecting the Speaker to vote with Democrats?
I have no expectations for how the Speaker or anyone aside from me will vote.
Let me move on to the other issues of the day and this 2 applications of the law. Former President Trump speaking out after the first day of jury selection in the so-called hush money criminal trial in New York. Trump ripping into the judge's decision, which orders him to appear in the courtroom every day of the trial while Joe Biden is out campaigning. Watch this.
My son is graduating from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student, and he's very proud of the fact that he did so well. And I was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judge isn't going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial.
Congressman, your reaction?
I'm embarrassed for the state of New York. I agree with President Trump. This is a scam trial. He's not even asking to get out of the trial every day. He's trying to go to his son's high school graduation. And what an embarrassment for this judge if the judge doesn't grant that. There are so many problems with this case, but the fact that a presidential candidate, the only candidate on the Republican side, is being forced to sit in a New York City courtroom for something he was accused of doing 8 years ago, which is totally bogus, is really just a testament to the sickness of the judiciary, not just in the state of New York, but in all Democrat-run areas, including this whole nation. What we've seen is the weaponization of justice against this former president, who I believe is our future president as well. And the fact that Joe Biden's allowing this to happen is really appalling. But this particular judge, he is very much a Joe Biden supporter. He is going out of his way to make this as hard as possible on the Republican nominee, which is Donald Trump. He wants him in New York because when he's in New York, he's not out spreading the word to the folks across this nation that, frankly, are sick and tired of what they're seeing at all levels of government.
It's quite extraordinary, frankly, Congressman. Let me move on to this letter that you've sent. You and a group of House Republicans sending a letter to New York City Mayor Eric Adams asking if any of the federal funds being used for New York's prepaid debit card program for the migrants, any of that money is federal money. You write this. This $53 million program is a free handout to foreign nationals who illegally circumvented our immigration processes. Not only does this plan fail to address the underlying source of New York's surging migrant population, but it further incentivizes the arrival of illegal aliens. Do you know if the money is from taxpayer dollars, U.S. taxpayer dollars?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out. It seems the common denominator for all this mismanagement, whether it be justice or executive branches, is New York. And I'm sorry that you live there and have to deal with it personally every day. But we want to know from this mayor if he's using federal funds for this program, because he's incentivizing illegal immigration. He's working against federal law. And I realize the executive branch leader, President Biden, refuses to enforce the law. But Mr. Adams, if he is using federal funds, then that will be another issue our committee, the Judiciary Committee, will address. But we seek this information from him and plan to make it known to the American people and hold him accountable if, in fact, he's doing wrong.
Shouldn't you know this already, Congressman? I mean, come on. These prepaid debit cards have been an issue now for months. People are getting all this money to go get free phones, to go get food, whatever they want to get. Meanwhile, our veterans are living on the street. You still don't know if this is federal money or New York money?
Yeah, the thought that veterans are getting screwed while the city of New York is paying for illegal immigrants to do God knows what and encouraging even more to come to this nation is appalling. And the American people hate that, which is why I believe they're going to throw this president out and replace him with Donald Trump in November. But in the meantime, House Republicans, including myself, are going to continue to work to make sure the American people know how bad it is. We intend to hold the offenders accountable at all levels of government. And I appreciate you shedding light as well.
All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work. Thanks very much for being here this morning. Lance Gooden joining us.